All right, guys, welcome back again to the channel. So there has been a very fascinating story coming out in the transfer market right now concerning one of our very best talented winger. I'm talking about Ademola Lookman, who is the current African Footballer of the Year holder. And then obviously he returned back into his club this week to train ahead of the new season with his Atalanta BC, the club that he has been with for a few years. I think up to 3 years now. He's done a lot for the club. Winning the Europe League and then qualifying for Champions League, scoring a lot of goals. Creating assists and all of that. And in general, made the club to become a very very strong club that are consistently or that have been consistently vying for the top four position. Last season, they, at some point had a go at the Scudetto itself, but they didn't really finish well. At the end of the day, Napoli edged them to that one. But as it stands, Ademola Lookman could be on his way out of this club and is going to go to the other side of the city, to play for the San Siro outlet. And Inter Milan are apparently very serious with this deal because, based on the report, that they've actually started negotiation with Atalanta, who apparently seems like they're okay with selling their best player to their rival in the same league because they've obviously been agreeing to talk about the deal, and Inter Milan have tabled around 40 million euros based on the reports, but this is not up to what the asking price or the release clause for Ademola Lookman says. Of course, Atalanta placed his release clause uh, between I think 55 to 60 million euros. So obviously, it's still a far cry, when you look at what Inter Milan has tabled right now. But at the end of the day, it's still, in the early stages, so anything can happen. But as it stands now, it's looking very likely that Ademola Lookman is going to, go to a different club this coming season to play his football. But it's not just Ademola Lookman. We also have, as usual, Victor Osimhen situation, which has always been in the news, since the transfer market opened, and it's still getting really heated. The last time, I talked about how Napoli are, refusing to obviously agree to Galatasaray term of paying this release clause money in like 3 or 4 installments across three seasons, because they are saying no, they don't want the payment to go beyond 2026. But the latest development on the Siemens front right now is that he has now received a very very important advice from his senior colleague in the person of Jude Ighalo has now come out to give his 2 cents or his advice to Victor Osimhen as regards what he needs to do right now. So for Jude Ighalo, he feels that Osimhen should consider going to Saudi Arabia to make some money, in the next 2 years. His advice actually is that Osimhen is still young, 26 years old, and he has all the time in the world to to make the money outside of Europe and then come back, perhaps join the Al Hilal football club, who are constantly on his neck right now because they want him to sign. They've given him all kinds of lucrative contracts. He rejected them. I think they've doubled it up to like 4 different times. He also rejected them. Well, Igalo is telling Usime right now that he should accept the deal. That he's quite young. He's only 26, and then he should go to Saudi Arabia, play for 2 years. When he turns 28, he can probably start considering coming back to play in Europe. He says that's not impossible because, in his own days, he actually played in the EPL and then went to uh, went to the Chinese league, played a couple of years there, and then later came back to play for Manchester United straight from Asia. So that, obviously is one example where we can see that it's actually possible for you to come from maybe Saudi Arabian league or an Asian league or South American league to the EPL. So this is the advice that he has now given him. In his own words, he said, "My advice to Osimhen is to go to Saudi Arabia. Victor Osimhen should play in Saudi Arabia for 2 years, earn enough money, and then return to Europe. I played football in China for years and still returned to Europe to play for Manchester United at the age of 30. Osimhen is only 26 years old. If he plays in Saudi Arabia for 2 years, he'll be 28 and can still return to Europe to play for another 5 years if he wants to. You must remember that big players like Ronaldo and Messi are not Africans. Their money is theirs to spend. But in Africa, our money often doesn't belong to us alone. Many people expect to share in our earnings. So this is what Igalo has told him. Of course, in that final part, of the financial pressure that African players face every time, the pressure to make a lot of money and then change or transform their families' lives. So this is what Judy Gallo has now told Victor Osimhen, uh, ahead of the potential move. And I mean, I've said it before that at this point, if Osimhen goes to Saudi Arabia, no one should blame him because he has tried his best to give all of these top club sides a chance, to actually sign him and bring him to their club for him to uh, reward them with goals, of course, which is obviously what he knows how to do best. But since this is not happening and all of these clubs are looking elsewhere, as if Victor Osimhen doesn't exist, I think it's definitely a very good idea. So I'm siding Odion Igalo in this one. But let me know what you think. Do you think this is actually a good advice, to Osimhen, uh, to accept the Saudi Arabia deal ahead of a deal that keeps him in Europe?